So we talked about the CSI divisions, and we talked about the work breakdown structure, right? The work breakdown structure is basically take a large project and break it down into smaller components. We're going to use the CSI divisions to break down the project into those smaller components. First division, division 0, is procurement and contracting requirements. You can use the master format as a checklist, and the master format can be found in the course site. If you go to course materials, right, and you go down into the cost reference, the first link that we have in cost reference is the, sorry, not the first one. Well, yeah, it should be the first one if this is off, right? Yeah. It's the CSI master format. So when you click over there, you will see the master format complete list of divisions and subdivisions of that division. So each one of these is going to have a code, a number. So division 0 is procurement and contracting, and then within that you have 0101, project title, 0105, certifications, sales page, table of contents. So you can use that as a checklist to make sure that you have those items in instruction for procurement, you know, scope of bids, scope of proposals, you know, that all these items should be there. Now, of course, for us, the important part is how much does this cost and how is that affecting our project, right? So you may have bonds that are required to do the work. So then you have to figure out how much is that going to cost and where to put it. The where to put it is where this number system comes handy, okay? Because you will give a code. That code is going to be 006000, right, for project forms, and then 006113 is your performance and payment bond. So we will have a numerical code that can be associated with a cost for an item, okay? Then we have conditions of the contract, you know, all that stuff. Those are sort of the indirect cost associated with preparing the documentation to bid. Then you get into division 1, which is general conditions and requirements. This includes cost of preparing the bid, preparing the schedule, alternates, you know, options for different aspects of the project, office overhead, equipment, temporary utilities, insurances, temporary lights, all of this stuff that is considered indirect costs are part of these general requirements, right? So the estimator needs to be familiar with what are these items and how to account for them, and basically put them into their spreadsheet. Here's an example of a temporary office that was in a job site. So you will see, you know, you need computers, you need printers, you need shelves, you need office utilities and all that stuff. That's not something that you give to the owner, but you need this stuff in order to get your work done, right? You need to carry paperwork, you need a place to sit, and all of that. And then later on, that will be removed from the job site. So temporary buildings, offices, barricade signals, toilets, all of that stuff, it's part of your general requirements. And you need to account for them, right? You may have also some overhead in the worker's salary, in terms of vacations, leave sick, insurance, and all that stuff. So you will have the direct cost and the indirect cost. You will have pre-construction fees, you know, field personnel that works by day. The portion of their salary are going to be in overhead. insurance, heat, and here's some of the measurements that you will use for these items. All right. So to help a little bit tracking down all these costs, if we go to our Blackboard cost reference section, okay, you're going to find that I have added a general conditions template link in that group of cost reference. So please click on it, okay? And you will need to download this file. So click Save, okay? And then click Open. So the file should open in Excel. Everybody with me?
No.
Okay. Go to Blackboard. Scroll down. No, you went too far. General conditions. And then click Open. Or save and open. Either way. Okay. So this is a list that it's sort of a template in Excel that has a lot of the temporary stuff and overhead that you may need to get a job done, okay? Now, a typical problem that students have is that they think they have to put a number on each one of these rows. That's not the case, okay? You don't need to have all of them in your project. You may need to have some, you may not need to have, okay? So for example, do you need a trailer delivery and setup? Depends on your project, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you have a project that is it's an empty field, so you need to bring in a trailer to have an office and have some space where you can have meetings and you can have your paperwork and all that stuff while you do the work. Maybe you're doing a renovation where you can use a portion of the building as your office, so then you don't need to bring in a trailer, right? So those costs, this is sort of a checklist, okay? You look at the item and then you think about it, okay, do I really need this stuff or not? If I need it, then I put a quantity and then I associate a cost to it. Okay, and then the spreadsheet is going to multiply the quantities that you have times the labor, material, and subcontractor to find out how much is that going to cost. So, for example, let's say we need a delivery for a trailer, one delivery. Okay, so I'm going to enter. Oh, I need to use enable editing. So I'm going to use one here. Okay. Unit labor price, how much do you figure that delivery is going to take? Could be, what, 2 people maybe coming in?
Yeah.
One driver.
Dropping it over there, driver, 4 people, say, okay. 4 people, labor unit price. So you need to figure out for the labor. Let's say that you have 4 people, I don't know, 4 people, 10 hours.
No, for like a trailer delivery, it's not like you hire somebody else from the outside, like a contractor to come.
A contractor, okay. That may be the case. Okay, that makes it easier. So how much are you paying this contractor to do the trailer setup?
150. 150.
Okay, there you go. So now the spreadsheet says, okay, I didn't enter anything in labor, so the total labor is 0. I didn't enter anything in materials, so the material is 0. But I entered 150 for the subcontractor, so the total subcontractor is 150, which is 150 per unit times 1 unit. It gives me this 150. So the total comes to 150. Right now, the only cost I have here is $150 for the subcontractor to drop the trailer. Okay? Make sense? And then, you will do the same for these different items. Now, the tricky part is where do you find the cost for these different items? Right?
Previous job.
Yeah.
You will have, exactly, if you're working, you will have previous job experience. So you look into your previous jobs, you figure out how much you pay, and then you estimate how much you will need for this one, right? That's the best source of information. For the purpose of the course, you can do whatever you want. You can go on the internet and find, how much does it cost to rent a trailer. You can look in estimating books. I have some reference from RS Means that I have posted online. So if we go, for example, here to the course Blackboard, right, and we go into cost reference, let me see if I have temporary facility cost data, for example, okay? So we can click over there and we see that I have this table for temporary facilities. So it will tell me, for example, a barricade, okay? A barricade that is 5 feet high, 3 rails at 2 feet times, I don't know, I can't read what that says, 8 inches or so.
8 inches.
Yeah, fixed. So that barricade, if I want to use that barricade, the unit of measure is going to be linear feet, okay? I'm going to need 2 carpenters to get that done, okay? And the daily output is 20. That means that every day they can install 20 linear feet of these barricades, okay? Make sense?
Yes.
The cost is going to be $5.10 in materials for each linear feet. Okay? It's going to be $28.50 in labor for each linear feet. And there is no equipment associated with that. So if you add $5.10 plus $28.50, that's $33.60. So you have a total cost of $33.60 per linear feet. Okay? Make sense? Mm-hmm. So now, let's suppose that we want to use this barricade in our test example. Okay? What would be the way to estimate the cost for that barricade? Yes.
Sorry, the labor says $28.50 and it's 2 carpenters, so each of them is getting paid $14.25 per day?
Yes. No, per linear feet. These units are per linear feet.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, whoa.
Okay?
Right.
Are per linear feet. And this is the crew. The crew carpenter of 2 costs $28.50. So you are right in the sense, okay, $14.25 is going to be paid for each one. But we don't really know that. Because it could be that you have a carpenter apprentice and a carpenter master carpenter. So the master carpenter may make 20 and the apprentice $8.50. We don't really know. But the crew of the 2 of them is going to cost $28.50 for each linear feet. Okay? All right. So how do we figure out the cost of this barricade in our course project? In the test that I posed.
Find out what's the linear footage.
Linear foot.
Right, we need to measure the linear feet, right? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go to our project, right? We're going to go to our project, and then we're going to create a new condition. This new condition is going to be a linear condition, right? And I'm going to call this barricade, right? I'm going to call this barricade. I don't really have the survey drawing, so I don't know what is the, surrounding this building, if I need to cover an additional section or what it is. I really don't know. So I have to do an assumption. My assumption is that the barricade is going to go around this building in a rectangle, that covers a large area. I'm just going to go here, stop there, you know, go all the way up here, then down, and then across. Okay? So I'm going to assume that this is my barricade. And I'll close that barricade over there. So I have measured 664 linear feet for this barricade, right? In my measure, you may have a different one. I'm expecting that each student is going to have a different number because you have different values, right? If I go to this takeoff, I can see that the barricade is here and it's measuring 664 linear feet. Okay? So I'm going to go to my Excel file. And I'm going to look for temporary facilities, and I'm going to see if there is a barricade over here anywhere. Do you see any? No. Maybe in temporary utilities? No. General expenses? That's not included there. It really should be in temporary facilities, right? That's the place where it should be. Now there is a material. I'm sorry? Protection and safety could be, right?
I think they have it in.
Well, they have fence here, right?
Fence. That should be simple.
They have fence instead of barricades. But I really like barricades. So I'm going to add a line over there to put barricades. Okay, so the way that you do that in Excel is that you select the whole line. Okay, you're going to select your complete line, and then you're going to right click on it and select insert. Okay, so now you type in, you know, barricade. Now, from the cost perspective, okay, I have the barricade. You see this number, 01500? That comes from the CSI code. So the way that we read this is 01500 is temporary facilities and controls, right? 560 is the section for barricades. 560, 100 is barricades in general. And 0010 is this particular barricade. 0020 is going to be the 5 feet high, 3 rails at 2, you know, whatever fixed is. So the code, if I want to use the same code, I will use the code that comes from the book. So this number over here, for me, it will be 01560 100 0020. You see? That number comes from 01560 100 0020. Okay? That tells me which is the code number that I am getting from the book. Okay? And you can then click here, and if you need, you can, you know, increase the size of this column. Okay? So I have the barricade. Then the next one is going to be the quantity. What is the quantity for this barricade?
600.
What I have measured from on-screen takeoff, right? So I'll go to on-screen takeoff, and I'll look at there, and it says, okay, 664. So I type here 664. The unit of measure is linear feet, right? And now I need to enter the labor, materials, and subcontractor prices that come from this table. So I have a 510 in materials, which is the next one, of course. 510 in materials. Labor is $28.50. Okay, and it does not have any subcontractors or equipment price, if I'm not mistaken, right? No. Okay, so I have entered the unit cost for this barricade. Now, notice that there is no formula here. There is no formula because I inserted that line that was not there before. So all my formulas were shift down. It's safe to copy that formula and paste it over. So basically what you do is you go to the fence that has the formula, right click on it, copy, go over, and then paste. If you have the paste special, just paste, or Control V. That pastes that file. So if you see the formulas here that are missing, you can copy all of them and then paste it on top. Okay? So basically you want to copy the formulas that are missing from your line. Okay? Is that clear? I know it may be a little complicated because we just add a line item.
I didn't get the number.
Huh? Well, you have to copy the one below and paste it on top. If that is too complicated, if you don't really like to do that because you're not that good on Excel, one way that you can do is, well, if you're not going to use a rental standard chain link, then wipe that off and write in barricade, right? But I really recommend that you learn how to insert lines and how to copy and paste formulas. Because that is an important skill that you need. In any event, let's suppose that you don't know how to copy and paste, okay? What is the total cost for labor? The multiplication of the quantity times the unit labor cost, right? So you can do that by hand also. If you don't have the formulas here, if you don't have the formulas here, you can look up and say, okay, the total cost for labor, right? The total cost for labor is going to be the unit, right? Multiplied by my labor unit price. So I select the units that I'm measuring, right? Multiplied by the unit cost of labor. So that's going to be multiplied, the asterisk symbol is the multiplication symbol, times the unit cost. So I select the unit cost. The formula says now equal C40. C40 is the unit of measure, multiplied by E40. E40 is the labor cost per unit of measure. Okay? So when I click enter, it's multiplying 664 linear feet by $28.50 per linear foot. So that's giving me $18,000 in labor. That clear? Okay. The same way I can do, I look at the material and equipment, right? So the material and equipment is going to be what? What's going to be my cost for material and equipment?
F40.
The quantity by the
The quantity multiplied by the unit cost in materials. Perfect. In equipment, that's it. And then the total is going to be sum of these items, right? I'm adding the labor and the material, that gives me the total, and that is the same grand total that I need for this. Okay? So I have spent $22,310 in this barricade. 18,924 are for labor and 3,318 for materials. That adds to $22,000. Make sense? Okay, so that's the same That basic principle is going to be repeated over and over and over and over again for all the items that we have in our course project. We're going to go to on-screen takeoff, we're going to take a measurement. We're going to go to our book reference, we're going to find out the unit cost. We're going to go to Excel, we're going to enter the quantities, we're going to enter the unit cost, and we'll figure out the total. Okay? In concept, it's very simple. In practice, the complication comes from knowing what is the unit of measure. You may need to do a little in-between calculation and finding the source for cost. Okay? That's going to be the only challenges in practice. But we will do that several times, and you know, by the time that you have done it a few times, then you feel more comfortable in what's going on. Okay? Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody okay with this? Okay, perfect, perfect, perfect. So, okay, let's do a little trial. I'm going to give you 10 minutes, okay? It's 5 before 11. I'll give you until 11:05. Find another temporary element that you want to estimate, all right? Figure it out on your general conditions spreadsheet, measure using on-screen, and then calculate the total, all right?
I have a question. Can
Yeah.
you go back to the charts before the Excel?
Yeah. Okay.
For the total sub, that would be the unit, the quantity times the sub unit
Right.
price, right?
The best thing to do is go up here, okay, and look at the headings. So we have the unit is the unit of measure. The labor unit price is the price of the labor per unit of measure. The material and equipment unit price is the unit price of materials and equipment for each unit of measure. The subcontractor is per unit of measurement. Then you have the total labor. The total labor is going to be the unit price multiplied by the quantity. Okay? The labor burden, if you have additional overhead, we're going to leave that blank. Materials is going to be the unit price of the materials multiplied by the unit of measure, by the quantity. And then the subcontractor is going to be the subcontractor price multiplied by the unit of measurement.
Okay, so then on the example that you have, I think that would be 0 then, right?
Yeah, you're right. I think you, yeah, exactly, because I don't have a subcontractor. You're right. Very good, thank you. So the total cost here, yeah, the grand total is going to be the cost of the labor, materials, and subcontractor, which in this case is 0. Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Here is a trick. If you want, if you're like me, it bothers me when I go and scroll down and the header disappears. Mm-hmm. So one way to lock that down is go to a top left corner. I like, in this case, I'm going to go to B3. You can go, you can go. Yeah, B3 is a good one. What I'm going to do is I am going to freeze the columns on the left of this cell, and I'm going to freeze the rows on top of this cell. Okay? So I go to the cell that I want to use to freeze the things, and then I go View, Freeze Panes. You can choose Freeze Panes, it will freeze both. Or freeze top row, it will only freeze the top portion. Or freeze the first column, it will only freeze the first column. I'm going to freeze panes, so I'll freeze both of them. Now look at this, when I scroll down, the top of this column is frozen. Okay? So it's kind of handy when you're putting in the numbers to see what is the heading of your columns. All right? So now go ahead, you have until 11:05 to figure out another temporary value that comes from that table, right? Similar to what we did with the barricade.